So I was trying to go live, but it's not going to work. I'm at Shiloh Battlefield National Military Park. Let me just show you. There it is. You can see it. But I arrived. I arrived last night and had to drive through the battlefield. This is Shiloh. I'm in just outside of Savannah, Tennessee, which is where I'm staying. Shiloh was the site of the first huge battle in 1862 on April 6th and 7th. And it's just a beautiful area, just a beautifully peaceful area. But this is my first stop on my battlefield tours. I'm going to be Facebooking live later, so hopefully I'll be able to get some service in this park. But man, it's incredible to think that 23,000 casualties occurred here over 150 years ago, almost 160 years ago. It's just amazing. But anyway, this is stop number one, Shiloh Battlefield. So here I am. I'm at Shiloh National Park, and this is an area called the Hornet's Nest. This is a monument, kind of interesting. This is a monument that was, it's a Confederate monument. They talk about the certain defeat. The battle I learned today was really in two separate days. The first day was a huge win for the Confederates. The second day was just the opposite. This area here, it's hard to really see, but this is what's called the Hornet's Nest. And if you listen, just listen how peaceful it sounds. This whole area is quiet and it's beautiful. You've got hard oak trees and junipers and all sorts of different trees. And right here, right all along here, it's hard to see, but this whole area right through here and up here on top of the ridge that I'll show you in a minute, this whole area was called the Hornet's Nest. And for 8 hours, about 4,500 to 5,000 Union troops were almost surrounded by Confederate troops. 2,250 Union troops under Benjamin Prentiss finally gave up. They surrendered. They were captured. They were paroled later in the war. But this right here bought several hours of very, very needed time for Grant. Shiloh, they were totally surprised. The Union Army was totally surprised. Matter of fact, some were still in their beds, some Union soldiers, and the Confederates overran them, and the Union had to retreat close to the Tennessee River. Grant was waiting on reinforcements from Don Carlos Buell to get here, the Army of the Ohio. Grant's army is known as the Army of the Tennessee, and he only had about 40,000 troops. He needed the other, I guess there were 17,000 troops from Buell's army, but he needed time for them to get here. Otherwise, he would have been routed. And then right here, this area called the Hornet's Nest is where the Union was able to make a stand and buy precious time. Pretty cool stuff. So here I am. I'm right in the middle of this place called the Hornet's Nest. And you can see it was heavily wooded, and the men would have been in here amongst these trees taking refuge in cover. It's called the Hornet's Nest because they said it sounded like angry hornets with all the bullets flying. Here's a plaque that talks about 58th Illinois Infantry, my boys, Army of the Tennessee. The regiment was surrounded here, and 223 of its officers and men captured at 5:30 p.m. April 6, 1862. If you walk down the path here, you can see what it must have been like. They say it's much the same today as it was then. Pretty awesome to think that this is where thousands of men died and were captured. Right here is where Prentiss surrendered. General Benjamin Prentiss, right here in this place. That is so cool. Look at that. So right here, he would have been surrounded, would have had his command, and he would have been around these trees. In the earlier video, around these trees, there's kind of a meadow, and he would have been surrounded. And as the Confederates got closer and closer and closer, his sphere of influence, or his men would have gotten closer to him. So I imagine this would have been the center of this would have been the center of where he was. Pretty amazing, pretty cool. Duncan's farm. This is where the fiercest fighting of Shiloh took place. Don't look very. It looks very peaceful now, doesn't it? But here's some of the fiercest fighting. To my right is where the hornet's nest would have been, just on the other side of those trees. But here's a fence that would have been there back in the day. And you have the Union lines way up here and right here, and then you had the rebels coming from those trees right over there. Hard to believe. Right here is where it all started. At 4:55 a.m., Confederate troops were over here, and right up here were picket lines for the Union troops. Before dawn, one of the colonels sent out a group, and right here they rode down this trail, and they were fired upon by Confederate troops. And just over these hills were 44,000 Confederate troops. The Union troops had no idea, none, that they were there. And this is where it all started. The first battle started at 6 a.m. with the Confederates marching up here. And if you can see, right down this road, that's not too far from Shiloh Church, which is what the battle's named after. Almost 24,000 casualties started right here. Unbelievable.